The views, information, opinions expressed during the show are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Voices, the individual's employers, organization, committee, or other group or individuals. This is Voices, a space where we get to bravely share our truth, stories, experiences, and art. A ton of dope people who will motivate you, make you cry, make you laugh, bring some hope into your life, but just maybe they'll share something interesting enough to help you find your voice. Welcome to Voices.
My name is James Gardin, and I'll be performing my song, I Just Started Loving Me. Love, 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 love. Love, 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 love. Love, 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 love. It's love. I used to believe I wasn't worth it, and the life God gave me wasn't perfect. And the tools I had to work with had me set up to fail before my first step. Never spoke loud in crowds. I was conditioned to think it was rude to be loud and proud. Till I drowned in sounds of negative speech. Until I heard a small voice in me speak. It said, I got all the love you want, but you continue to sleep. I got all these shiny things and the emptiness they bring. When will this all cycle in? Baby, what you want from me? I found love you can't believe. Now I finally feel free. I just started loving me. I just started loving me. I just started loving me. I used to feel so incomplete. I just started loving me. I just started loving me. I just started loving me. I love what's inside of me. Love, 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 love. Oh, love, 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 love. Yeah, love, 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 love. Oh, love, 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 love. Man, it feels good to love the skin I'm in. Me and pure joy just became a synonym. Me and me, well, we just became friends again. I'm in a real good mood. Care less about a hater, my mood don't depend on them. My flaws just make me one of a kind. Then a voice started talking and it hit my line and said everything will be just fine. Cause I got all the love you want, but you continue to sleep. I got all these shiny things and the emptiness they bring. When will this all cycle in? Baby, what you want from me? I found love you can't believe. Now I finally feel free. I just started loving me. I just started loving me. I just started loving me. I used to feel so incomplete. I just started loving me. I just started loving me. I just started loving me. I love what's inside of me. Love, 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 love. Oh, love, 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 love. Yeah, love, 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 love. Oh, love, 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 love. I love you.
Today I am joined by a friend, the homie, James Gardin, but it's Gardin.
Oh Lord, yes.
We're gonna do that spiel. You are a local music artist, you're super involved in the community, you're a part of AOTA, and you've been creating a ton of art during this time, a ton of work. So tell me a little bit about that, how you're creating art and how your art is being impacted in the midst of kind of where the world is at right now. Like, you are a black man.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know.
Yeah, I am. Real black.
How has being a black man during this time impacted the type of art and work you are creating?
If I'm honest, when we first went into like lockdown, I didn't probably create for the first like 2 months, and I just couldn't. And I forget what I was watching or who I was talking to, but I think what I realized is that because we had to do shelter in place, in a sense, our freedom to do whatever we want died. So I think I was grieving that freedom because I wasn't ready to lose it, right? And so for me,
It's deep.
when everyone was like, this is all the time you want it, you better get to work, you better grind, I was like, I'm not happy. But I was literally like, wait, no, this sucks. Like, how can I create? And part of it is like, I love performing. So it's like, how can I create when I know I can't share this in person with people? Like, the internet's dope and like sharing it there is dope. But for me, I was like, I love that interaction. So the first couple of months, what I had to do is kind of just give myself more grace and be like, guess what? Today, you're not going to do anything. You might just watch a whole series on Netflix, and that's okay because this is not normal. You're going through a traumatic experience. Once I allowed myself to do that, I think what I did was like, as I created, I was like, let me create art from the perspective of the world I want to see. And so I read a bunch of articles and they were saying they thought that's where music would move, right? So you're not gonna have a lot of songs that are about partying if everyone is in shelter in place, because you can't go party, it just doesn't make sense. And so they were saying there's gonna be a lot of like storytelling, fantasy, and things that sort of like create different worlds. And I was like, I just wanna write from the perspective of like what I think the world should look and feel like.
So when did you start writing that song?
That song was written before COVID-19 and all that. But like, I think for that record, it was just, I really wanted to look at this idea of like, we try to find love and acceptance from like things and that we feel are tangible, but they're temporary. So I kind of wanted to approach this idea of like finding, like loving yourself for like just being you. Like there's no like benchmark accomplishment you have to reach to be deemed worthy of that love. You're worthy of that love because you exist. And I think that's a battle that I know I've went through. So I'm always like, for me, I've been creating from a perspective as well as like, if I'm going through it, someone else probably is. So even if it's just two of us who really rock with that song, we both need this song. So I'm gonna put it out.
Tell me about the journey of self-love.
A lot of journaling, praying. I mean, for me, I think it's like just being okay with any flaws I have, or not even calling them flaws, but calling them like part of my character, right? I think we can easily look at things that we do or with how we look and simply say there's something wrong with it because we're comparing it to something else. Yeah. But if we look at it like this is part of me, it's something that can be celebrated. I think it's like if God made a one-of-a-kind piece of art, right, which he did, which is us, then at that point, how can you compare it to something else? It's a one-of-a-kind piece. So you can't be like, yo, that's really cool, but you don't look like that painting. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like a one of one. Like there's nothing else like this, and you won't experience anything like this unless you experience this. So I think it's realizing that and realizing that like I was created the way I was on purpose, like none of it's on accident, and accepting that and being okay with that.
So one thing that you said that was interesting was that making art from the perspective where you want the world to be, but clearly where the world is at versus where you want it to be, there's a gap. So how do you deal with that?
I think you have to mention both, right? Ooh. And so, because I think that's the thing. I think a lot of times when we think of where we want the world to go and where it's at, we think it's an either or, like in the story. And so we try to tell just either, we get a lot of art that tells like, this is how it is, with no solution, or like we act like we're at the end of the solution already solving it without addressing the problem. So for me, it's like you have to address both, right? So it's like back to I just started loving me. I kind of talk about like the reasons I wasn't loving myself, whether that be because I was measuring myself up against other people or listening to lies that I heard in my head, but then we moved to me actually loving me, right? And so I think you have to have both in that. But I think like with trying to make more music that points towards where we should be, I've been doing music for a while. So for me, every time something bad happens, people will make a song about the bad thing that happens. And I'm like, that's cool. But I've heard that song for the last 30 plus years. And so, and I appreciate it because I know it's a part of their journey of like realizing what's going on. But for me, I don't think that's the effort that I need to put in the push towards where we need to go.
So I noticed that some artists make their art as a form of therapy or expression for themselves, and others make art for the world. Yeah. Where do you fall?
I mean, I think
a little bit of both.
I think that's a both thing too, right? What is it? I can't think of the word. It's a South African word. Can't think of it, and now I'm really mad. But like, it's essentially a principle where it's like,
if it comes to mind, we'll put in a lower graphic.
Okay, it's essentially like I am who I am because of other people, right? And so even if I make something for myself, then I'm also making it for the world, because like I'm made of like the combination of all the people I do community with. So I think like if I make something for myself, I don't live on an island. My experience isn't unique to the point that no one else has experienced it.
Yeah.
So it is for other people as well.
So we had talked to Christy, and she was able to share kind of a similar message of self-love, but loving herself for being a Black female with her features and appreciating that. But I don't think I have heard a lot of conversations about Black men loving themselves. Yeah. So what advice would you give to somebody a Black man who is sitting there and being like, I don't know, James, like I get that you got that journey, but I don't have that journey. What advice would you give? Practical and maybe what you've done?
I'll admit I haven't done this, but they should go get therapy. Just straight up.
Do as I say, not as I do.
No, I mean, like, I think everyone needs therapy, like, in a sense. And I think maybe that's because we look at mental health weird. But I've always told people if we called it mental fitness, everyone would start doing it, right? Because like when we think about fitness, it's like, oh, I'm going to the gym, I got to get in shape. And it's like your mental is so out of shape because you don't exercise it or allow it to get the things it needs to heal. I do have a lot of friends who go to therapy, and they will just literally they rave on how it saved their life. And I think a lot of times, definitely as a Black man, you go through so much trauma. You're socialized to have this idea of you have to be strong, you need to hold it in, you need to keep it together. And all that really does is destroy you from the inside out. So no, I would, and I probably should listen to my own advice. I'll say get therapy. Definitely have a circle of people who can keep you accountable. Whether that's making sure that you're expressing your emotions clearly and directly. Yeah. I'll have friends we'll be like, how are you doing? And then if you're like, oh, I'm fine, it's like, no, don't give me that answer. I need a real answer. And they'll check me on that too. And it's like, you know what? Or they'll be like, how are you doing? And give me an honest answer. I was like, it's not the best day, but I'm happy to be here. So you have to have people around you that do that, because you have to get used to actually sharing how you feel, because through a lot of Black men's lives, you're taught to not share how you feel at all. You're taught to hide it and not show it. And that's just, it's unhealthy. It's totally unhealthy. Well, when you were talking about Crispy, it made me think that the idea of not loving myself because I'm Black wasn't a thing I grew up with. Yeah. And it's because my mom was very intentional on celebrating our Blackness, whether that be year around we learned about Black inventors and Black people who did great things. This might have been a little OD, but my sister, if anyone ever bought her a doll, my mom said it had to be a Black doll. And if they didn't, I think she went as far as throwing away a doll if it wasn't a Black doll. She was like, no, my daughter's gonna play with Black dolls. One year I wanted G.I. Joes. Instead of G.I. Joes, I got Buffalo Soldiers. I got into comics, and then there's a bunch of Black comics that I read as a kid. So there was never if in other people's upbringing, if there was a time when they were I never saw something in this arena that looked like me. My mom was intentional on being anything you want, I'm gonna find something that looks like you within it. So I never had to struggle with that.
So you never struggled with not appreciating your Black features,
right? Because
that was so ingrained in your childhood.
When I was young, I wanted to be dark skinned. That's what I battled with. I was I want to be darker. Wow. But I was why am I so light? I was jealous of my sister. I was oh, she's darker than me. Wow. That's how my mind worked. That's how intentional my mom was.
I'm very curious when this video goes out, how many people are watching. So if you're watching and you're that was my childhood, please write that. Because I think that's so interesting and so cool. I recently found a Puerto Rican comic book, like a Puerto Rican superhero, and her name's Boricua.
That's dope.
I know, but she like has curly hair, big curly hair, a very curvaceous body. And I was like, why didn't I see this growing up? Because as a woman, you have different views, you know, and wanting to be a certain size. And I'm like, if I would have saw this, I would have been like,
yeah,
she's way prettier than Barbie. But so that's cool that you're like, I want to be darker. I want to look like this superhero or yeah. So that wasn't a part of your struggle with loving yourself. It wasn't about being black.
I mean, I think there's so many cool things about being black. I mean,
Let's go, tell it.
Oh, we have rhythm. No, I mean like just the culture of like what type of art black people have made. Different like scientists. Even if we look at like just how societies move and like what they do culturally. So I always remember when I went to it was 10 years ago. I went to South Africa for 3 months. And when I was there, like one of the cool things I saw was when you walk down the street, like you can't walk past someone without greeting them. So it doesn't even matter if we know each other. Like if I see you, I'm gonna say Sawubona, and you say yeah, bo, and I'm gonna say Unjani, and you might say yeah, Pile, and that means I'm fine. And like that exchange happens, and just like even like, I mean, being black is just cool. Like if we look at a lot of like the trends in culture that are cool, they were created from black people. So it's like, for me, even if society doesn't want to give us credit or the ownership over it, I know what it is, and I'm like, nah, I know where that comes from. You didn't make that up. Like we know exactly where that comes from. Like our hairstyles are dope. The way we dress is amazing. Like I don't know. For me, it's like, why would I not love this? It's amazing.
This episode of Voices has been brought to you by Blue Owl Coffee and Vision Success Marketing and Consulting.